super surprising, Joe Manchin has killed his own proposal for raising taxes on wealthy people and his climate proposal. I understand that Joe Manchin's polling has gone through the roof because he's doing this stuff. And I understand you deal with the Senate that you're given. But at what point does the Democratic leadership take responsibility for not understanding what Joe Manchin has been doing since day one? Or I would argue, actually, since closer to day 175 or 200. Because I think Joe Manchin shifted gears at one point when he had his footing, when Biden let those Republicans come in, and then they didn't do anything in June. And so he let Sinema and Portman came in, and it gave time for Joe Manchin to marshal his forces and get his support, get the advertising money he needed from no labels, et cetera, et cetera. But he has played Schumer and Biden, and frankly, also Pelosi, like a fiddle, it seems to me.
Yeah, and I think a mistake that they made early on when it comes to Manchin was not dealing better and harder with Sinema. Because Sinema actually set up a situation where that led to today in this way. When Sinema said, look, I'm not doing any increases in the marginal tax rates for the rich or marginal tax rates for corporations. Those numbers have to stay flat there, and therefore you have to go and find other revenue in the tax code, because you can't do it the easy way. Like, we're going to move this number from 32 to 36. Like that's how you do normal policy, because and it's fair. That hits everybody equally. When you have to go into the tax code and you have to then find like individual like revenue raisers, you wind up where we are today with the West Virginia Cattle Association, signing a letter saying that this particular pass-through tax change that is now in Build Back Better, or was in Build Back Better, to make up for what Sinema took out, that's going to kill us. Those West Virginia cattle folks those are people that Manchin is listening to. And it's not just them, but when you start targeting these individual little industries, then you galvanize and unleash that entire industry to come at particular people that they can peel off, particular people like Manchin. And so that's one big mistake that they made. And now what they could have done with Sinema, whether she's just such a wild card that there's just nothing that would work, I don't know, but it doesn't seem like they tried a whole lot with her. But once you set this situation up that you had to do different kinds of tax cuts, Manchin might not even have known. Like, Manchin might have said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do $300 billion in other tax increases. And just tell me what they are."
Let me just, I want to tease this out so the people understand. Like, the idea of like Manchin wouldn't have known. Manchin only knows if somebody comes knocking on his door from West Virginia and says, "Hey, dude, I got a problem here, and you better deal with this because we gave you whatever it was, $45,000 last time, to run, and we're hiring your daughter's kids and whatever. God knows what's going on in West Virginia." But if nobody comes to complain to him, he doesn't care.
Right. No, exactly.
That's his way of saying there's no moneyed interest in West Virginia that I'm offending, and if I'm not offending any moneyed interest in West Virginia, I don't care, and that's it. And you saw McConnell. McConnell knows it because McConnell's smart. He, on the Senate floor, he gave this speech where he's like, "Hey Joe, like, you tell the press you're okay with this pass-through tax change that's going to raise all this money. How do you think, most companies in West Virginia are set up? They're set up as pass-throughs." But that was a couple days before this letter comes out from the West Virginia cattlemen, which I promise you, the Republicans helped to organize, because that's how that works. Like, you go out and find your coalition partners and you tell them to sign. It's not just them, but but other business associations who are like, "Hey, we're pass-throughs." And so finally he's like, "You know what? I never wanted to do climate stuff. I love,
the fact that he got a second round of this, where he gets to like put his thumb in the eye of Biden and Schumer and Pelosi again, is
for him. It's like this is worth another like 3 or 4 points probably.
Yeah.
He's thinking.
Yeah, Manchin. He waited just long enough for the last one to fade, and he kills the exact same thing again. Except it's not the exact same thing. Like you said, he proposed this. Like this was his specific proposal. He's like, here are the things that I would do. This amount of tax increases in this way. Half of it deficit reduction, drug pricing, climate. It's got to be energy funding across the board. It's his idea. And he killed his own idea. Yeah.
From your perspective, is this incompetence, or like, I mean, is it possible that like Joe Biden didn't want to ever pass anything, didn't really want to maintain that pass-through tax or whatever it was? I mean, like it's literally just it's just embarrassing what they cannot figure out what to do with Manchin and with Sinema. I mean, it's an embarrassment. Like it's an embarrassment for them. It seems to me like there's no, this is such chump change stuff, as it were. Anyways, I'm just. It seems like there is no way to communicate how incompetent the leadership has been since the day after passing the COVID relief in whatever it was, February.
Mm-hmm. Right. Certainly once they had that piece of paper from Manchin saying like, here are the things I would support, this would smarter play would be, okay, let's hurry up and get this done. You say they support this. However, here he is. He has publicly said many times that he supports the very thing that he just killed. An interesting question would be, what if Harry Reid didn't get cancer? What if Harry Reid, ran again for re-election in 2016 and won and was alive and was the majority leader? Harry Reid was maybe since Johnson or maybe better than Johnson when it comes to just the tactics of building coalitions and getting legislation through the Senate and meeting the needs of members where they were. Now, when he left, Reid and Manchin were not on speaking terms anymore. Like Reid hated him that much. So maybe, forget about it. Now, maybe Reid, there's so many maybes. The 2016 elections should have gone differently. But for Comey and that 2 points, you probably have, Ron Johnson's back in the private sector, and you've got Russ Feingold in that seat. They should have had Joe Sestak or Fetterman, or Katie McGinty could have won, should have won that seat. In Missouri, Jason Kander lost by 2 points, but all the polling, showed him just about, ahead, going into that final race. And then you had that weird tick at the very end. So that changes things. Schumer with 53, does he get it done? Maybe. So I think that I don't think it's as simple as saying that Democrats do all this on purpose. That'd be like the other way. If you like the pass-through tax system as it is, the other way to keep it that way is just to not propose changing it. Like there's not a whole lot. It's not like a whole lot of value of
that's the thing that gets me so frustrated. It's like, where's the value in pretending that you can't even get this done? Like
it doesn't help.
Who is the person going around saying like,
well, at least they said they
gave
wanted
it the old college try,
nobody.
Like all those people who would say that 6 months ago would have been like, we can't do anything anyways because of Manchin, period, end of story. Like they keep trying, and I've said this a million times on this program that my 6 years or 5 years at Air America, and with 6 different leaderships, I think we had 6 CEOs in 5 years and 5 owners in 5 years. The various forms of incompetence that I witnessed there, where each one was like, what? How? Oh my God, how could they do this again? And it has that feeling of like, and also at any time, there was 5 different times probably over this 5 years where they could have completely turned it around. And I feel like we could go back, we could go before 2016 and just go to like, all right, President Obama, they're not going to confirm, they're not even going to have hearings for Merrick Garland. So let's parade through 7 other people. Let's hit every single demographic in the country. Let them not have a hearing for a black woman. Let them not have a hearing for, an Asian Pacific woman and a Latino woman, and then a Latino man you could just keep going through and just help 12 different organizations organize to get people out to vote and make up those 60,000 votes over the course of 3 states. But they didn't bother doing that either. And instead, you just had all the benefit for that seat being open going to Mitch McConnell and to Donald Trump so that they could bring us to what we were talking about in the first half of the program.
Also, they were okay losing the Senate in 2014, like the White House was, because they were so frustrated with Harry Reid. Like they were like sick of like him embarrassing them publicly and fighting with them all the time. They not seeing the Merrick Garland thing coming. I mean, talk to a legal expert about this, but they confirmed Ketanji Brown Jackson before Breyer was off the court. Right? He announced he was leaving.
I was asking about this many times, and nobody could give me an answer.
What if they confirmed Merrick Garland after the lame duck in 2014 and just said, look, we don't know what's going to happen, but
he's next in the hopper.
This is music to Sam's ears because you've been banging this drum about.
I was asking this like many times. Like,
but this is an administration that is uninterested in packing the court, in addressing judicial review, and like that would be far down their list, in my opinion, in terms of things they try.
Oh, without a doubt. Like right now, I would do six Supreme Court justices.
Yeah, nominate 6, nominate 9, because hey, who knows?
I mean, I don't know who we asked about this question, and it had something to do with like putting in the resignation or something, or anticipating, and I don't know. But I guess what it would be is that theoretically in the lame duck session they could pass it, but then maybe the Senate could do a revote. When Mitch McConnell takes over, the Senate could do a revote and say, we vote now to strike his confirmation down.
They could.
I mean, I think that's really what I think would happen in that instance.
Right.
But yes. So there's a lot of different screw ups that have led us to this point. With all that said, let's just do this in 2 minutes. I'm sorry we're running late. Where is your sense, to the extent that you've talked to reporters who are out there sort of like taking the pulse of these things? Because I'm starting to see like these stories where people seem to be pulling back from the Democratic nightmare scenario. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but I'm reading stories like there's only 30 swing districts in the country in the House now. So it can't be a landslide. Or if you look at the polling when, abortion comes into play, things change in the 19th district in New York, let's say, which is 4.5, 5+ Biden district on an election year, but off year, a very different thing. What is your sense of like what people are starting to think in terms of both the Senate and the House?
There's still a sense among people that Republicans are going to take over, but it does seem like that there's a little bit less confidence in the extent of it. Maybe a month or 2 ago, the question was like how bad the blowout was going to be. But now I think the conventional wisdom is more like they've probably got it, but we'll see, because the Supreme Court really scrambles the question of out party and motivation to vote in a way that we don't have any record for. Like there's nothing to compare this to.
And if Donald Trump jumps in, if Donald Trump declares in September, as he's sort of threatening to do, that also is going to change things. I wonder on the Senate side, is it the same way?
The Senate, because they're confident in how a lot of these races are going, Ron Johnson is unpopular. Herschel Walker in Georgia.
Dr. Oz.
Yeah.
Dr. Oz. Mark
We got to
Kelly.
play that Snooki thing a little bit later.
Snook is out. For Fetterman. Mark Kelly's popular in Arizona, despite the best efforts of cinema to paint him as a
Right, and
radical.
Blake Masters looks like he is set to maybe win there, and that's going to help Mark Kelly quite a bit too.
Probably, yeah, right, because
Blake Masters is not the guy you want if abortion is, people care about abortion.
Right. So, New Hampshire's tough, but yes, people are a little more confident about holding the Senate for Democrats than the House. But even I think people aren't betting their lives anymore on what's going to happen in November.
Well,
whereas before it seemed pretty open and shut.
Ryan, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for doing your hair up for us too.
You got it.
Appreciate it. You don't always get.
Well, he has that glam squad.
Put that on.
I did Rising one time. Do they still do your makeup for you and all that stuff?
They do.
I mean, I did it a few times, but in studio, I was like, oh my goodness, I wish I had this every day.
Fancy schmancy.
I wasn't in studio today, but yeah, they take good care of you.
Thanks for wearing the suit.
They have their work cut out for them. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
All right. Ryan Grimm, everybody. Check out The Intercept, obviously. Oh, we didn't even get, you guys had a pretty blockbuster story about the Secret Service.
Check that one out.
Deleting their things. And now there's a Metro cop who is corroborating, at least, we can hear the secondhand. Those Secret Service guys, really crack organization there in terms of serving the Constitution.
And they said that they were going to testify on the record that Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony was false. So let's call them to that. I would love to see these Secret Service agents on the stand to explain why their text messages are all deleted.
Any day now. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Ryan Grimm, thanks again.